Hi, I'm V, and today I'm going to be telling you about the top 5 unsettling skinwalker sightings in America that can't be explained. In case you don't know, skinwalkers are beings who are able to transform into any animal at will. The legend of skinwalkers comes from the Navajo, a southwestern indigenous tribe. Let's get started. Number 5. The Grove. On a backcountry camping trip, Patrick was staying at a site he had frequented previously. During his stay, there was a coyote that would often be near, but never out in the open. Patrick explained that he could almost sense the presence of the coyote. He would be able to catch a glimpse of it out of the corner of his eyes or in his peripheral vision, but he never came face to face with the animal. On the last day, Patrick was packing his truck in preparation for heading home from his trip. He began to drive down the path. At the end of the first section, he noticed that the coyote was following behind his fast-moving truck. When Patrick turned onto the paved road, he was terrified to discover that the coyote was running next to him. Patrick sped up in an attempt to escape the creature, pushing to about 35 miles per hour. The creature continued to run beside the truck, only falling behind when Patrick sped up even more. In the rearview mirror, Patrick could see that the animal was now running on 2 legs, standing up, and wearing what looked to be buckskin pants. When he next looked, Patrick said he saw a man wearing coyote fur keeping up with his truck. The next time Patrick looked back, the creature was gone. Number 4. The Skinwalker By The River. In British Columbia on a cold and windy day, a student named Raj was expecting his day to carry on like usual. He never would have expected to be arriving at school choking back tears. His house is located across from a large river. Across the river was a small 1-car bridge surrounded by woods. He had to walk across the bridge every morning to get to school. This morning was very cold. The river that ran below the bridge was frozen over completely. The air was frigid and biting. As he approached the bridge, his eye was caught by a figure lurking at the edge of the bush. From a distance, he assumed it was a coyote, which he frequently saw in the area. But as he continued towards the bridge, he noticed the size of the creature. The creature began to stand taller, and it was around the size of a bear or a wolf. The creature seemed to glance at him. Raj walked even closer to the bridge and then stopped in his tracks. He could clearly see that the creature standing before him was not a coyote, wolf, or bear. It was standing tall, with its knees bent backwards as if its legs were inverted. The body was thin and frail, with delicate skin that showed the protruding ribs and spine. The bones looked as though even the slightest movement would cause them to break through the struggling skin of the creature. He stayed staring at the creature and took another step forward. Faster than the blink of an eye, the creature's head snapped up, its dark, lifeless eyes staring back at his. The mouth moved before the creature let out an inhuman screech. With tears in his eyes, Raj watched as the creature then hunched down to all fours and darted across the frozen river, all within a split second. Raj ran across the bridge to the school, hearing twigs snapping behind him, as though he was being followed. Number 3. Security scared. Canadian security guards were terrified when they stumbled across an eerie camouflaged creature crawling towards them in the woods. The creature blended in with the darkened grass, hardly noticeable among the dense bush surrounding it. The workers decided to investigate the creature, going into the woods in an attempt to locate it. In a video, the being is recorded crawling through the grass towards the women who are standing outside of their car. The terrified women continuously question what the animal is, freaked out by the mysterious being. The women got back into their car and drove closer, hoping to catch a clear view of the creature so they could identify it. Though the women were able to get closer, the creature still did not become any more clear. It blended into the cleared path that it was on, lacking any defining features. The creature began to walk towards the women, who quickly and smartly decided to back away. They posted the video footage, and commenters immediately began to identify the creature as a skinwalker. Many were also worried about the safety of the women, warning them of the danger of approaching a skinwalker. One commented, "Skinwalker, do not whistle. Save yourself now, sister. Please listen." Whistling is known to attract skinwalkers, who often whistle back. Other commenters theorized that the creature could have been Bigfoot or a large wolf. The 2 women are fine and have not reported any later disturbances as a result of the experience. Number 2. Yenaldlooshi Is Watching Me. A grandchild writes about her experience with skinwalkers. Their grandmother was half Navajo and half Irish. The grandmother was also very superstitious. The writer explains that their grandmother was extremely superstitious and believed in paranormal occurrences. The writer recalls visiting their grandmother. They would spend time together doing normal family things. but the curtains were always completely drawn, and at times the grandmother would peek out through the curtains, pulling back only enough to see without fully opening them. When the family would ask the grandmother what she was doing, she would always reply with the same thing: Yenaldlooshi is watching me. The days continued in the same way, the grandmother always keeping the curtains drawn closed and peeking out every now and again. Nearing the end of the visit, the writer's younger brother was in the front garden planting flowers, having a good, calm time. Abruptly, their grandmother began to yell, "Get away from that creature, it's not safe." The writer, who was inside, assumed that their grandmother was talking about a snake or scorpion. They frantically ran outside without hesitation to see what was happening. Outside, on the side of the house, the grandma was clutching the brother and trembling in terror. Standing in the yard was a huge, black, Great Dane-sized creature that stared at the grandmother with soul-piercing intensity. The animal stared its yellow eyes at the grandmother and small child, before huffing and quickly leaving. The writer's mother kept asking what had happened, and the grandmother continually repeated, "The Yenaldlooshi has found me." The grandma moved houses only a few weeks after that. The writer still recalls the story, which took place over a decade ago, with astounding clarity. It is unlikely that the grandmother was ever found by the Yenaldlooshi again, and the writer has not reported any other incidents. Number 1. It had a dog's body, but with human hands and feet. This writer shares their story of staying with their grandmother and cousins during their adolescence. After a game of truth or dare, a heart-stopping and heartbreaking turn of events occurred. The grandmother's house was in a suburban, heavily forested area in Michigan. The neighbors are a short drive away from the road at the front of the house, but the back of the house led into a forest, filled only with man-made paths. Each of the houses was on a hill. The only part of them that was fully underground was the basement. The cousins were all young, and the writer was in the middle age range of the group. The cousins had created a fire pit in the back of the house. It was located in a small patch of open space, out of sight from any of the neighboring houses. They would frequently sit there, having fires and share scary stories. One night, after sharing the scary stories, the group decided to play a game of truth or dare. The writer's older cousin dared them to walk through the paths, which were darkening from the setting sun, for 10 minutes. The writer accepted, along with their younger cousin. The pair walked into the woods, hoping that the light left in the sky would be enough to allow them to see for the next 10 minutes. The pair tripped through the woods, squinting and following the paths. They walked for about 5 minutes, turning back when they could hardly see the fire. Upon turning, the pair froze in fear from the creature before them. In the middle of the path stood a large dog-like creature, hunched over with its front hands merely an inch from the ground. The creature had bright, almost glowing white eyes. It had a dog-like body, a human head, hands and feet. The pair stood, petrified, as though they were turned to stone, unable to move or scream. The creature dashed the opposite direction, towards the small river. The duo screamed and sprinted back to the house. The cousins all slept in a room with large glass sliding doors that overlooked the forest at the back of the house. In the morning, the writer skipped breakfast, as their cousins were outside playing. Once outside, they were met with their cousins running towards the house to get their grandma. In the distance, the writer could see the grandmother's 2 dogs in the yard, deceased, and their bodies had obviously been attacked. That night, they all went to bed early. In the middle of the night, the writer was woken by something hitting their head. They sat up to see all of their cousins sitting silently, staring at them. A younger cousin motioned towards the large windows. The writer cautiously turned their head to the sliding glass doors to see a, as they said, really messed up face pressed against the glass. The writer screamed, louder than they had thought was possible, causing the creature against the glass to bolt away. The grandmother called the police, who were unable to locate the creature, and has never stayed there in the night again.